Well, the weekend has begun. So, what exactly we're going to do today? That is a very simple question. So, today we're going to be reviewing four different events from three different promotions. The first one is Stardom's much recent event that took place this past Friday in Korakuen Hall. As you know, they have this one, the last matches we ever get to see Utami Hayashishita and of course Giulia before they go on to their own thing as well. Then we have the Cosmic Angels final exam. So there's going to be a lot of good matches on this one. Then we move on, of course, with New Japan when they're in Chicago for Windy City Riot. We have plenty good matches involved. Jack Perry versus Ren no, Shoto and Umino. My bad. I keep forgetting who's supposed to be involved. Of course, we have the New Japan World Television title, the New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team titles in a four-way match, and we got plenty other matches as well. And don't forget Naito versus Moxley, which we know is going to be one hell of a match. Then we move on with the double shows with AEW with Collision and Battle of the Belts. And then we clap it up with some news updates to keep it very short, to tell you guys what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set, and some developments that's been happening in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed upon. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that's pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also do more news updates. If I'm unable to put it on this episode, I can put it on a separate video by itself. We also do real-timing news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed upon ASAP. Then, of course, we have the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool things as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool features in this channel as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, all introductions are set aside, so I believe it's time for me to shut up and begin with our very first review and start up with Stardom in Korakuen Hall. Okay, Stardom in Korakuen Hall. This took place on Friday, April 12th. Now, as I said earlier in the start of this video, that this will be the last time we see Giulia and Utami Hayashishita. Now, officially, their contracts with Stardom is done. But however, they made a point to make an appearance with Stardom on this particular day. Now, we all know where they're going to be headed, but let's talk about the entirety of the start of this event all the way to the end. Now, our first match, we have a bit of a Cosmic Angel final exam. Now, ever since last February, we saw Sayaka Kurara announce that she wants to join Cosmic Angels. Of course, Tam Nakano was very reluctant to allow her, but however, Yuna Mizumori decided to put her in through an apprenticeship the way that she was last year. And then a month later, we saw, of course, the return of Aya Sakura, who also made a surprising choice to join Cosmic Angels, with led a lot of big conversations and talks. Now, we often talk about, say, Kurara, how her spears are so amazing. I mean, it's like they're flawless in my opinion. And I mean, the entirety of the match was pretty good. I like how it started that way. I mean, some people commented that this event, I mean, this particular match was the first. It would have been a pay-per-view quality, but due to some reasons, they decided not to, because this was all about Giulia and Utami's final appearance. But this match was great. I mean, it showed a lot of teamwork with Yuna and Aya and, of course, Sayaka. While, of course, last week we saw that Tam was not in Japan. She was here participating in many events. I mean, the Stardom show, Ring of Honor, and of course, Spark Yoshipiruso America. That gave enough time for Yuna, along with, of course, Kurara and Sakura, to train with her to get the bond more and practice more of what they're going to do. And I have to say that their training really paid off. And I like how there was that one moment in this match where Tam was by herself. Kurara was already in that line to, of course, put away what's her name? Oh yeah, Tam, with the spear, and then of course Sakura actually applied a knee strike. And I thought it was a great teamwork, and I think it was pretty impressive. But however, as you know, Yuna, Kurata, and Sakura were in fact facing the core members, the much experienced wrestlers. And of course that played out pretty well. But unfortunately, Yuna was the one who ended up in the wrong side of the violet screwdriver, allowing for, of course, Tam, Boy, and Sayuri to pick up the win. However, what was the final decision made by the fearless leader of the Cosmic Angels and the cutest in the universe? Well, the final result, they both pass. So I thought it was a pretty good moment. And even though I like how both Kurara and Sakura were were emotional, like they couldn't believe they actually, even though they did not win, but they showed a lot of promising. Even Tam was impressed by both of them. I mean, she often talked about, but recently we've been seeing a bit of a mother and daughter type of relationship between both Tam and Kurara. I will talk more about them at some point, because I don't want to make comparisons at all, but I want to show you, like, explain certain things that kind of make sense, but we'll see. So let's move on to our next match. Our next match, we have Oedo Time members consisting of Araka and Starlight Kid. As you know, Starlight Kid is the brand new Spark Yoshi World Champion. She won that belt when she was here in the States, and now she took it back with her to Japan, showing off to the entire world. But however, they had a contempt with Hanako and Waka Tsukiyama of EXV. Now, as you know, EXV has been making a roll, but however, when it comes to Oedo Tai, you know they're not going to let another team try to beat them down. But I can tell you that it was Starlight Kid who picked up the win when she applied the Black Tiger leg killer onto Waka, allowing her to pick up the win. Now, our next match, we had a bit of a three-way tag match. Team number one, we have the members of Queen's Quest, Miyu Amasaki and Lady C, versus star members Momo Kogo and Koguma versus Godzai, Rana Yagami, and Saki Kashima. Now, of course, when it comes to Koguma, she does the little bear dance thing, which is a way to try to pull off some wins. Now, we all know Kashima. She's we know she's a strong wrestler, but sometimes she's trying to be a bit more clever, and you think that would have been the help to do that. But unfortunately, that did not help her or her teammate, because unfortunately, Yagami was the one who ended up on the wrong side of the Kuma roll, and just like that, Koguma picked up the win. However, you did see a little bit of a, not bickering, but more like a disagreement between both Yagami and Kashima. So I don't know what they said, but hopefully they can work things out with their issues. Now, our next match, we had a very interesting tag match. We had a 6-woman tag match. We have Oedo ties consistent of Fukigen Death. Rina and Natsuko Tora taking on the rookie Rian. Along, she teams up with our current goddesses of tag champions, Crazy Star, consistent of Mei Sita and Suzuki. Now, of course, you probably would think in this particular match that if somehow Oedo Tai would have pinned Crazy Star, it would have been the opportunity for them to get a shot at the tag titles. Well, unfortunately, it did not help that way because it was Rina who picked up the win when she applied a double knee drop onto Rian to pick up the win. Of course, Rina can't stand the rookies who may most likely try to, challenge her for the future belt. But however, that wasn't the case at the post-match. The post-match, we saw the return of prominence. We're talking about Risa Sera, Akane Fujita, Mochi Natsumi, and of course, Higari Kurame. That was a very interesting surprise. Now, don't forget, Zuzu Suzuki used to be a member of Prominence until she made the choice to leave last year. But we did see, of course, Kurame and Risa Sera made their appearance last year attacking Zuzu. And it's kind of interesting now that they decided to show up since then. And, of course, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what they're doing. And, of course, they were determined to be the next challengers for the Goddesses belts. So, most likely that could happen. So, we'll see where that leads us from here on out. Now, moving on, we have a bit of a four-way match. We have Momo Watanabe, Azuki, Ami Suri, and Zena. Now, don't forget, each of these girls have something interesting. Now, Momo, we know that she has her sights set on the red belt currently being held by Maika. That would have been the most obvious thing. However, Azuki, many people often talk about her, what she should be doing now, Ami Suri, and Zena. But however, you would think that Momo would have picked up the bit of momentum since we know she's already in sights of the red belt. And she picked up the win when she applied the Peach Sunrise onto Ami Suri to pick up the win. Now, our next match, this is, of course, Shuri and Julia teaming up for the last time. Don't forget, these two were a tag team. I don't remember the name of their tag team name, but yes, they face against Stars, consistent of Mayu Iwatani, and of course, our current winner of the Cinderella tournament, Hanan. It was a very interesting match. Now, don't forget, if you guys remember, Julia has never beaten Mayu in singles action. When she was still in Stardom, she wanted to target for her throne, but that will never happen ever again. But unfortunately, I have to say this match was pretty awesome. But the one thing that was crazy, Hanan was this close in pulling off the biggest win of her career, and that would have been the resultant of her pinning Julia. But unfortunately, the match surpassed its time limit after 20 minutes. So it ended in a time limit draw. During the post match, Hanan actually put out a good promo. Even Julia put out a promo too, said something to Hanan to be the best person that she is, because a lot of people are now focusing their eyes on Hanan, because a lot are often talk about that she will be the next ace, and I think Julia knows it too well that that's where it most likely will be going in her career. So we'll be paying attention to that as we go. Now, our last match, our main event, we have Aphrodite, consistent of Sayakami Tani and Utami Ashita teaming up for the last time. They take on Saya Ida and Maika. Now, some of you may question, why would they put this match like this? Simple. All four of these ladies are part of the Golden Generation, because they're part of that generation that made that what it is. But it was very interesting to see that that's how it was going to end it. Now, you probably would assume that maybe Utami Ashita would have picked up the win. However, that wasn't the case either, because as much as this match was fantastic, you would have presumed that somehow Maika would pick up the win on Utami Ashita for the last time. Don't forget, she did beat her when she nominate her for the red belt. But unfortunately, it was Saya Ida who picked up the win when she applied like a somewhat modified version of the Muscle Buster. And just like that, she picked up the win. But however, they decided to do something very special. As you know, Kamitani and Utami Hayashishita are not just only tag partners, but they had fought each other before, either in belts or in tag team, or however they want to put it. But this was like a bit of a sending off farewell between Utami and Kamitani between them. But unfortunately, that match ended in a 5-minute time limit draw. So this was the last time we see Hayashishita and Giulia. But we'll talk more about them in the future, okay? Once the new promotion Stardom Rossi will put out, we'll talk about that at some point. But for now, we'll just end things like this right here with Stardom. And I believe it's time for New Japan Pro Wrestling Windy City Riot. Okay, New Japan Pro Wrestling Windy City Riot. This was in Chicago. Of course, we all know about Chicago. That is how we like to call CM Punk country. A lot of people talk about because of the presence of one particular person, but we'll get to that at some point. Now, they did show up a bit of the buy-in matches. The first one, we have Zane J taking on Matt Mandagriff. Now, we have seen Matt Mandagriff plenty of times during the New Japan shows in the U.S., which was not uncommon. However, I had that distinct feeling that this match was going to finish with Matt Mandagriff being the winner because we've been seeing him a whole lot in New Japan. I think I'm not sure if he's still in the New Japan Academy stuff, but he was able to pick up the win by applying a move that many of you recognize as the Style Clash. That's right, AJ Styles' move. The Styles Clash picked up the win for him and walked away with the W. Now, our last match for the buy-in, we have a women's tag team match. We have Trish Adora. She teams up with Alex Windsor. They take on Viva Van and Mina Shirakawa. Now, as you all know, Mina Shirakawa during the week was here. She appeared in AEW, Ring of Honor, Spark Yoshipuro Russo, and other places, I think. But yes, she was going to be in this match. Now, it's kind of interesting how both Viva Van and Mina kind of, coexisted very well. But you would have thought that this match would have fallen to Mina's way. But it appeared that this was a bit of a warm-up for none other than Alex Windsor, because she picked up the win onto Viva Van by applying what a GTS, not the GTS that we know, but a different type. But yes, that's allowed her to pick up the win. But I'll explain more about Alex Windsor a little later. Now, let's talk about the main card of the Windy City Riot. We have that piece of garbage, Ren Narita, taking on Minoru Suzuki. Now, I'm sure Minoru Suzuki has heard what Ren Narita did, betraying Strong Style after joining the House of Torture. And of course, Ren Narita thinks that he's a hotshot, that he thinks that Strong Style is dead because Evil believes that it's dead. But of course, he knows how to push the buns of Suzuki. Suzuki was attempting to use a chair onto Ren Narita, but damn it, that Narita used that push-up bar and got away with it by applying the double cross. But Suzuki will not take that lightly. But if I was the Young Lions, please do not get in the way because he will kill you. But of course, Narita is laughing his butt off, thinking he got away with it. Now, our next match, this is for the New Japan Strong Women's title. We have Azumi, who issued the challenge to Stephanie Vaquer, who won this belt recently, about a month ago, towards Giulia. Of course, Stephanie Vaquer expected this was going to happen. This is not Azumi's first rodeo with this title belt. She had challenged Giulia before, but the real question is, will there be any difference? I mean, I have to say Azumi really, really put up a hell of a fight, but it wasn't enough because Vaquer applied like a somewhat of a backbreaker onto Azumi, allowing her to, of course, to pick up the win. However, Stephanie Vakir had an unexpected visitor who decided to. It was a a no-brainer for me because, well, you don't take a genius to figure out what is going on. Alex Windsor showed up, and of course, it was doesn't take a trade secret that she would challenge for the New Japan Strong Women's title. So that was obvious, but of course, it's gonna happen. Now our next match, this is an open invitation by the champions Hikuleo and El Fantasmo for the New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team titles. We had Fred Rosser and Tom Lawler versus the West Coast Wrecking Crew, Royce Isaacs and Jarrell Nelson, and then finally TMDK, Shane Haste, and Mikey Nichols. Now, it's no secret that TMDK would want to have these belts. But however, there is a factor in this match. West Coast Wrecking Crew has been very, very, you could say, bitter, frustrated with the fact that things are not going their way. Now, they've been complaining like little girls about the fact that they felt that they should have been the first champions for the New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team title. But it wasn't that. They even tried to obtain them. They thought this would have been the perfect opportunity, but they lost their temper at some point. But it did allow for TMDK to pick up the win when, of course, first, this is what happened. God applied the Super Thunder Kiss 86 onto, what's his name? Onto Isaacs, but it was TMDK's Shane Haste who pinned Isaacs, and just like that, we do have brand new tag champions. But unfortunately, the West Coast Wrecking Crew decided to take their frustrations out on Lawler, blaming him for, of course, costing them the opportunity to become tag champions. And of course, Rosser tried to help, but it was up to no avail. But I'm sure we will see a feud between both sides, between those two men. Now, next match, played a crucial story, but at the same time played a crucial thing for the people of Chicago. I don't know if I have any subscribers who are people are from Chicago. You probably know what I'm talking about. The match that they announced that was next was Jack Perry versus Shota Umino. And of course, we heard the chant, CM Punk, CM Punk. So it was very interesting. Of course, we heard that in AEW as well. So I think no matter wherever we go, his name will be popped up. But of course, we jump into the match between Jack Perry and Shota Umino. Now, this match tells the story how Shota Umino, as you know, he has been unable to move forward ever since the loss of that match that he had with Jack Perry at the New Japan Cup, thanks to those morons, the House of Torture, getting involved. But, however, Shota Umino wants this match because he wants to prove once again why he should be the next ace of New Japan. And the only way to do that is by going through the one person that got in his way, and that is Jack Perry. You would have assumed that Shota Umino would have done everything in his power to try to put him away, and probably it would have taken a few Death Rider moves to try to get him to do that, and apparently it did. And then, of course, when that happened, Shota actually pinned Jack. 1, 2, 3. It's over, of course. And in the end, Jack Perry shook hands and respected Shota Umino. But of course, there is no love lost for Jack Perry in Chicago. And I think many, if I do have any subscribers who are from Chicago, you probably think, F Jack Perry. So I understand you guys is pissed about it. Now, our next match, we have the bit of the feud between Eddie Kingston and Gabe Kidd. Now, Gabe Kidd has been running his mouth saying that, this and that, crying like a little girl, and saying that he's going to kill Eddie Kingston. However, this match is where he picks his own partners. And it was no secret that he's probably going to pick members of the Bullet Club War Dogs. He picked Clark Connors, Kenta, and David Finlay. But the real question is, who did Eddie Kingston was going to pick? To our surprise, he picked members of the United Empire, Jeff Cobb and TJP, and of course, Homicide. Now, you would think, why did Eddie Kingston pick guys from the United Empire? Simple. Remember, there was a feud between them. They wanted Will Ospreay gone. So you would think that that played a pretty good factor. However, things got escalated. There was a lot of plunder, a lot of violence, a lot of blood. Eddie Kingston would have been the one that picked up the win. But unfortunately, this match ended when Kid pinned Homicide. And of course, things got out of control. I mean, Eddie Kingston went after Kid. And then, of course, he's saying that on May 11th in California, he will take him on in a last man standing. I'm sure, because don't remember, last time these two tangles in single competition, Kid did not beat him. He just wanted to send a message. And, of course, Kingston doesn't like being sent in the message. But hopefully, Kingston can finally put him away and shut him up once and for all. So, we'll see where that leads. Excuse me, it's getting too hot here. Okay, sorry about that. Now, moving on. We have the New Japan's World Television title. Zack Sabre Jr., who is the first inaugural champion, gets another shot of this belt. But this time he has to go against Bro. That's right, Matt Riddle. I was surprised about this match. Now, it feels like nobody wanted Matt Riddle to pick up this win. I mean, I know that we all know about the baggage that Riddle has outside of the wrestling business, but you probably would have assumed Zack Sabre Jr. would have picked up the win. But here's the thing. Matt Riddle was well prepared with Zack Sabre Jr., what he was going to do to him. But however, you would think Zack Sabre Jr. has to think outside the box. What is the one moves that he probably would not expect? One thing that it was interesting, he applied a different move when he applied, of course, the crucifix, and just like that, he becomes a two-time New Japan World Television Champion. However, we did see he put out a promo, and then Jeff Cobb showed up. Now, it's no secret that Jeff Cobb had a challenge for this belt, and of course, Cobb put Zack Sabre Jr. in his limits. Now, he tried to pick him up to do a body slam, but he was just too damn big. So the obvious question is, can Zack Sabre Jr. get out of this one? Because, of course, he's not facing a slouch. So we'll see where that leads us. Now, our next match, we have Tomohiro Ishii, the Stone Pimple, taking on the Most Wanted, Nick Menon. Now, this was a non-title match. Now, I'm probably sure many of you would have preferred this match to be a title match. I mean, personally, I would too, but nope. Tomohiro Ishii. I have to say, Menon is very impressive, despite that this is the first time he's ever facing Ishii. I mean, the endless of possibilities of opponents he could have now since he left WWE. And I thought this match was insane. I mean, Ishii, he's no slouch. He's a big, strong individual. And of course, he applied the Danger Zone, but it didn't take long until Nick Menon applied his own, and 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, our main event, the IWGP World Heavyweight title. Jon Moxley versus Tranquilo Tetsuya Naito. I thought this match was insane. I wasn't too sure how this was going to be. We know, of course, Moxley has aimed for this belt before, but due to the pandemic, it put it on hold for him. But man, he tried multiple times to apply the Death Rider, but Naito was just too clever and slick to not get involved in that. But when Moxley actually pulled it up after bleeding to death, well, he picked up the win with the Death Rider, and just like that, it was over. However, he put out a promo talking now that he got what he wanted, sending a direct message to the entire locker room of New Japan. He even declared his first opponent for a shot of this title, Shota Umino. But however, someone begs to differ, and that is that scumbag Ren Narita attacked him, declaring himself that he should be the next challenger. Now, Ren Narita does not want Shota Umino to cut it in line, but Umino did show up to help, of course, Moxley. But Moxley told him that he graduated from being a young lion to become a dead man. So, of course, Ren Narita thinks that he's all talk, but I don't think he's ever faced someone like him. The guy loves violence, and I don't think Randy Orton has ever faced. So if I was a House of Torture, don't get involved, because he may bring in people with him. So we'll see. So I think that's pretty much it. As you know, Moxley is now the first winner to become. He won the AEW World Title, WWE World Title, and of course the IWGP World Heavyweight Title. So I think that's pretty much it with our New Japan stuff. So let's move on with AEW Collision. Okay, AEW Collision. It opened up with, of course, the BCC, the Blackpool Combat Club, Bryan Danielson and Claudio Castagnoli. Now, don't forget, at Dynasty, Danielson will be facing against Ospreay. Now, Don Callis is barking orders. He wants, of course, Hobbs and Fletcher to dismantle Bryan Danielson, to soften him up enough for Will Ospreay to pit. But how, of course, Bryan Danielson, he's not too concerned about that. But of course, Fletcher and Hobbs will try to bounce back about that, saying they will do what Don Callis asked them to do. But we'll get to that match. Now, our next match, we are going to feature, of course, House of Black, Buddy Matthews, Brody Lee, and Brody King, and of course Malachi Black. They take on the combination of Dante Martin, Matt Sydal, and Action Andretti. Now, I was supposed to put this on news updates. Many of you were saying, wait a minute, where is Darius? Where's Dante's brother? Well, he's actually flying solo. Well, not flying solo as a wrestler. More like he's getting his pilot license. I thought that was a good joke from Tony Schiavone. I mean, it sounded great. Yeah, so apparently it was reported that he will be getting his pilot license. Good for him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to take his brother and whoever of his friends to fly across the country. But that's interesting. But anyway, the match itself was pretty good. You would think, because how highly skilled all three, Sydal, Dante, and of course Action would be. It would have been the perfect opportunity for them to pick up the win. But unfortunately, it was Brody who picked up the win when Sydal got triple teamed with all three members of the House of Black. And just like that, they picked up the win. Now, Lexi Neer conducts an interview with none other than Toni Storm and Mariah May. Of course, Toni Storm does remember Azumi. She likes to pretend sometimes the people from her past are irrelevant. But of course, people from her past will come back and bite her. Don't forget, Toni Storm was in Stardom. But of course, they're trying to do the whole thing what's been going on. Like I said, this is a custody battle that's going on between Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. So that is going to be coming up soon. Now, we do see a clip of Jericho who went looking for Taz. Okay. Jericho went looking for Taz. Apparently, he wants to see if he can get through the hook after what happened in their last match in Dynamite or Rampage, one of the two. But anyway, that's what he wanted to pull off. So Taz agreed to be more like the mediator or whatever, but we'll see where that leads. Now, our next match, we do see Katsuyori Shibata taking on Lee Moriarty. So that was a very interesting match. Now, of course, Anthony Ogogo and Shane Taylor were going to be there, which was no secret. They probably would want to humiliate Shibata. Of course, there was a moment where we saw Anthony Ogogo who actually give him a punch in the liver. You would think that would have been enough to put a guy like Shibata down, but nope. First, Shibata applied the chokehold, and then the PK, knocking, of course, Shibata down. But of course, after this win, the entirety of course, the Shane Taylor promotion attacked Shibata, and Hook came up for the save. So it was pretty much obvious. But we'll see what happens until then, because we do know Hook will defend his FTW title in a FTW rules match against Shane Taylor. Now, we do see two more interviews. The first one, we see Athena along with what's her name? Oh yeah, along with Billy Starks. As you know, Red Velvet will be facing Athena for the ROH Women's title at Battle of the Belts, which is the next review we'll be doing. And of course, she had a lot of things to say, so we'll see where that leads. And then, of course, the Undisputed Kingdom. Now, the obvious question does tell. There's two things. We know that there's going to be an eliminator match for Roderick Strong for the international title. If Rocky beats him, he gets another opportunity, or there's a time limit draw. But, however, there is the conflicting thing with him where it comes to Kyle O'Reilly, who said if Rocky wins, he gets a shot of the title. So that kind of put Roderick Strong like, what the hell, man? So we'll see where that leads. Now, our next match, we have Daniel Garcia versus Angelico. I have to say this was a pretty good match because we know that these two men have technical submission styles, and that would have been a bit of a bit factor. But it was Daniel Garcia who picked up the win with a leg lock, and just like that. So we'll see where that's going to lead us from there. Now, our next match, we have Toni Storm versus Azumi. Now, if you guys remember on Rampage, while Anna Jay, who's been very pissed because of this whole thing with the drama going on with Toni Storm, Mariah May, and Mina Shirakawa, Azumi showed up, gave her, her take over this situation, calling Mina that she's stupid, Mariah May is stupid, but of course, number one stupid of them all is Toni Storm. And of course, Anna Jay agrees with her. So they looks like there's BFFs, and people are now saying that Azumi should take Anna Jay with her to Japan. I think she would be a perfect fit for Queen's Quest if that ever goes around, but we'll see. But the match itself was pretty good, and I think we did see the moment between Mariah May and Anna Jay getting in each other's faces. But unfortunately, it was Toni Storm who walked away with the win with Storm Zero, and just like that, it picked up the win. Now, Lex Lanier conducts an interview with Red Velvet. Of course, Lex Lanier actually knew should have known that this was going to happen because, of course, that there was going to be the stir of the pot. So, it's no obvious. So, I'm sure Lex Lanier should have known that was going to happen, but it did not. Now, our next interview in the ramp, we see Toni Storm with Thunder Rosa. Now, of course, Thunder Rosa, we all know that she had to relinquish her belt when she got injured, so she hasn't lost it. But however, she was pissed off knowing the fact that Toni Storm tried to remove her makeup. So she was very passionate about her life, about everything she's accomplished before becoming a pro wrestler, and all this and that. But however, we did see Deonna Purrazzo, who felt like, look, Thunder Rosa, if you didn't like me helping you out, I understand, I'll stay out of your way. Now, our main event, we have the Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio and Bryan Danielson taking on the Don Callis family's Powerhouse Hobbs and Kyle Fletcher. Now, of course, their barking orders is to take Bryan Danielson out to soften him up for Bryan Danielson, for Will Ospreay. But you would think that would have been the way they would have done it. However, there was a moment where, of course, they tried to remove the pads on the ground, but it looks like it blocked this way. Like the man's like, nope, I'm not going to allow you to use this on my floor. But it was Claudio who picked up the win when he took out Kyle Fletcher, and just like that, it was over. But unfortunately, things did not go exactly like they would have thought, because they were viciously attacked by the Alpha, Konosuke Takeshita, of course, following barking orders from none other than Don Callis. But we will see what happens before we get to Dynasty. But right now, let's move on with AEW's Battle of the Belts 10, I believe. Okay. Battle of the Belts, AEW. We did see an interview with Hook before he goes to his next match. Now, Shibata, as you know, he uses his phone with the voice, whatever, telling him that he would like to be at his spot. But however, Hook decided to decline. Not because he didn't want to, it's because he knows exactly what he's getting himself into. So he said to let him handle his business. And of course, Shibata respects and understands Hook's what he is trying to do. So let's jump into that match. And of course, Hook knows that he has a much bigger challenge. Now, we were all impressed when he applied a T-bone suplex on Shane Taylor before. The obvious question we ask ourselves, could he do it again? Well, hallelujah, he did. But the real question is, could he put him down? Now, we know that Shane Taylor, he's a tough SOB. You know, that's always been his gimmick. But I was surprised that of course, Hook was able to apply the win when he applied the red rum onto him. He even put him through the corner, hoping that could stop or letting him loose. But Hook was relentless to let go. He wants to finish him off, and that's exactly what happened. Ref checked up on Taylor, and just like that, it was over. Now, Lex Luger did another interview, but this time with Rocky Romero. Now, 2 questions she asked. The first one is the best friends. He doesn't know what the hell is going on. He's friends with all of these guys, with Trent, with Chuck, and OC. But the problem is, he doesn't know. But he says right now, he cannot worry about that at this point, because the one thing that he is more focused is the Eliminator match against Roderick Strong. Of course, Kyle O'Reilly showed up and gave him, of course, say good luck. So we jump into that match. Of course, Roderick Strong versus Rocky Romero in an Eliminator match for the AEW International title. So you would think that there was going to be some interference, yes, but Rocky was very knowledgeable that he knows that this is a numbers game. But unfortunately, there was a moment we did see a knee strike coming for Roderick Strong, put him down to retain the make sure he does not get a shot. Kyle Fletcher showed up to congratulate Roderick Strong, but however, he was viciously attacked. And Roderick Strong warned him not to get involved, and he told him that he should not be coming for the international title. He believes that he doesn't have what it takes to be international. I mean, hey, he's Canadian, as I said it before, but this is going to be an interesting feud between them. Now, our last and final interview with Lexi, as you know, we saw Serena Deeb in Rampage. She actually appeared right after Yuka Sakazaki making her Rampage appearance, taking on Trish Adora. Now, the obvious question is, why did she show up? It doesn't take a genius to understand that she is scouting her possible challenges. Now, since her return, she's been undefeated. So that was the main reason. So we will see when those two will tango in the ring. Now, our next match is the ROH Women's World Title, Athena versus Red Velvet. Now, don't forget, Red Velvet has been, of course, a wrestler that has made it all the way, but unable to pick up the bigger wins to obtain belts. Of course, she was part of the tournament for the ROH Women's World Television Title, but you would think that this would have been a very impressive match. However, Athena applied what is the Eclipse on her finisher move, and just like that. However, here we go again in the post-match. They were Billy and, of course, Athena were trying to take her out, being more disrespectful as always because they don't believe in the whole honor thing. But here comes Queen Aminata, who has unfinished business with Billy Starks. I think Queen Aminata hasn't forgotten how Billy Starks played her and took her opportunity away. I'm sure she probably will want to have another opportunity of the ROH Women's World Television title. But of course, Billy Starks is not going to allow that, but sooner or later, they have to. So we'll see what happens down the line with Queen Aminata. But right now, we end things right now with all reviews. Let's move on with our last and final thing. Of course, that would be news updates. Okay, our news updates. So let's begin with events from our upcoming events in the promotions that we know. First things first, we have GCW for their Breaking GCW in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They'll take place on the 21st of April. It was announced that Billy Stark will be in action to take on Dark Sheik. And then, of course, as you know, later on this month, by the 27th of April, Stardom will have the All-Star Grand Queendom at the Yokohama Buntai. Apparently, it looks more like we're going to have the match between Tam Nakano and Aja Kong. Now, these two ladies did team up recently during WrestleMania week on Sunday, April 7th, during the Spark Yoshi-Peruso of America. So we will see them face off each other. So that's going to be an interesting match to watch. Of course, Singapore Pro Wrestling has announced for their upcoming event Ignition on the 17th of May. Joshi wrestler Maya Yukihi will be making her debut in Singapore, and she faces against Alexis Lee. So I think this is going to be a very good match. It's also a good opportunity for Maya Yukihi to appear in this particular event. We know she has wrestled here in the States and in England, but going to Singapore, that's cool. Now, finally, Deadlock Pro Wrestling DPW has announced for their Limit Break event on the 19th of May. Roderick Strong will be making his debut, so we will see AEW talent appearing in independent promotions, but we'll see what happens from here on out. Now, moving on for our developments. Naomichi Marifuji, as you know, announced that he wants to retire, but he actually spoken to Hiroshi Tanahashi in his podcast, informing him that he will put his retirement on hold for now. He said that he wants to get treatment for his knees and see how far it would go, because of course he wants to end his career in good health before he's done, but we'll see where that leads us from here on out. Now, Fightful Select reports that Sid Scala, if you guys remember, he was like the assistant manager to this guy in the NXT UK. WWE has announced that they let him go. So, very sad, but hopefully we'll see him down the road again. Fightful Select also reports that Hikuleo's contract with New Japan will be expiring by the end of June. Now, there are speculations that he could be making his way to WWE once his contract is done. So we haven't heard nothing. Now, as don't forget, his brother Tama Tonga is currently now with WWE. We just recently saw him. He now is part of the Bloodline. So we'll see where that leads us from here on out. Well, I did mention Darius Martin. So Fightful Select reported this, that he missed out a collision because he was trying to get his pilot license. So good for him. Now, finally, a very interesting development happened in Japan during a Sendai Girls show. Apparently, the TNA Knockouts World Champion Jordynne Grace sent a video message to a particular wrestler, and that is Chihiro Hashimoto. Now, she said 5 years ago she lost to her, but now she has gone stronger. She feels that this time is going to be interesting. So she'll be making her way to Japan to have unfinished business with Big Hash. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Hopefully I get to see it, but it's going to be a good, fun match. So I think we're pretty much it with everything in our news updates. So let's just call it a day. Okay, hope everybody enjoys this episode. For our next episode, it's going to be a very difficult one. As you know, we have New Japan making their way to Taiwan for the Wrestling World. We do have that one-day tournament to determine the crowning of brand new never openweight 6-man tag team titles. We do have the semifinals involved, so we'll talk more about that and plenty other matches. I haven't decided what else I'm going to be reviewing, but right now I did learn that West Coast Pro will have their show. This probably will be broadcast on YouTube. Hopefully I get to see that, so we'll see where that leads us from here on out. But everything else, we just gotta wait and see until then. I think that's pretty much it what we have, so I will see you guys the next time. So until then, I will see you guys on the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.